Welcome to the Dune Over episode 9. I am Dan with my one and only Spice Girl this week.
Pew, pew.
The Spice Must Flow, Jennifer. Comics will break your heart on YouTube. Comic books will break your heart on Instagram. There are other two. One is moving. The other one is working presidential polling. So election's kind of important. And
just a little bit.
As I said earlier in the post I made, we have tomorrow election counter programming, I guess. We're going to be joined by comic writer Steve Orlando, who graciously sent us the issue 2 of Commanders in Crisis 2 weeks early.
Yeah.
So we'll be talking about that and his other unreleased book, The Pull, for TKO Wave 3.
Yeah.
And Commanders in Crisis and all other things. But as I said in my post, if you need to go out to go vote, do that. And if, just catch us on the replay. It'll be available. Voting is more important than watching our fucking stream.
Yeah, and remember, if you are in line when polls close, you are allowed to stay in line. Stay in line and don't leave. Remember, also, let me think, in-person polls get counted first. Then it's mail-in and provisional and all of that. But if you need to get a provisional ballot, if they turn you away, then do that. There's election hotline numbers you can call if you see any tomfoolery, shenanigans, malarkey going on. Don't hesitate to call them poll numbers.
And if need be, call out trial by combat.
Why haven't we just settled on trial by combat in the first place?
I would also I don't know if you remember the where they had the Battle of the Seven, where it was a free for all of 7 people.
When was that? Was that a?
That was in the Duncan Egg.
Got it.
Series,
Got it.
But
yeah.
Yes, there is a trial by combat, but it's the Law of the Seven, where 7 combatants go in a free for all.
Mm-hmm.
And a Targaryen got brained.
It's been a minute since I've read any Game of Thrones related material. Thank you, George R. R. Martin.
It's been a minute since we got any.
Yeah.
I did read the history of the Targaryens, the Blood and Fire one.
Oh.
It actually had some interesting stuff, especially with the crazy nephews and nieces and war between the blacks and the greens of the Targaryen colors. I won't go into that. That's another live stream.
That's a whole nother chapter by chapter read, right? Maybe by the time we finish that, we'll actually get the next book of Game of Thrones.
Oh God, I hope not. Okay. So much like the rabbit hole that started last time of we started going down other holes in here. So this is chapter 33, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head.
34.
It is page 480 that we're starting at.
I think that's 34. At least that's what the title says is 34.
Okay. So we start out, and this is an interesting thing with from Princess Irulan's Carrie Bradshaw type entries.
Yeah.
My father, the Padalash Emperor, was 72, yet looked no more than 35, the year he encompassed the death of Duke Leto and gave Arrakis back to the Harkonnens.
That, I felt when I was reading that, just that first line, it felt so choppy to me. Princess Irulan, you got to do better, girl. This is what you're known for. We can start things a little bit better. Just that, was 72, yet look no more than 35. I don't know.
So where it really hits me is, I think now he was a man fighting constantly to escape the bars of an invisible cage. You must remember that he was an emperor, father-head of a dynasty that reached back into the dimmest history, but was denied him a legal son. Was this not the most terrible defeat a ruler ever suffered? My mother obeyed her sister's superiors, where the Lady Jessica disobeyed. Which of them was the stronger? History always has answered.
When I read this, it gave me a little bit of a flashback back to Harry Potter. And here's why, is because I was thinking, I'm like, okay, what would Dune have been if the Kwisatz Haderach was born to someone else? Like, so say that Bene
Oh, so
Gesserit,
the Neville Longbottom.
yeah, so
kinda...
like the Neville Longbottom Harry Potter thing, like one, if for one to live, the other must die, whatever the prophecy is. So I was just like, that was ruminating, I don't know, whatever, like stewing in my brain whenever I was reading this. Like, how different would the story have been if like Princess Irulan was the Kwisatz Haderach,
Or if, it would have been Alia.
or Alia, yeah.
Which it's supposed to have been. But, well, she was supposed to marry a Harkonnen heir and bear a child that would become the Kwisatz Haderach. I want like a flow chart of like this whole breeding program. Like,
yeah. Well, those are only
fold out.
They're only in, the Bene Gesserit secret files, which they have in, I'm sure, really awesome filing cabinets. What do the Bene Gesserit filing cabinets look like?
So this time I had hot takes of how like into people's clothing he was, where he's like, Paul stripped down to his tight workout shorts, and I'm like,
and no shoes.
Yes.
Because Jameis during that fight is wearing shoes, but he is not.
And a loincloth.
So, that's why Chani really appreciates him, is because he was only wearing that loincloth.
And then they were also talking about Feyd-Rautha's gloves and stuff. I was like, this went from furniture to like accessorizing.
The white glove and the black glove and the
white poison, black purity.
Yeah, and the short blade and the long blade. I forget. I think the right hand has the long one and the left one has the short one, whatever it was, and one has the poison.
Very,
one
very,
doesn't.
very phallic.
Yeah.
Short does nothing. Long injects. The slow blade penetrates.
Those slow blades, man.
I really want to try this food they talk about, and maybe it was because I was fucking starving. I was like, I wouldn't mind this like bird that's wrapped in a leaf with spice honey.
Yeah, but Paul says that it's a little bit too spicy for him. He is a white boy from Caladan, so it's, spicy for him is like mayonnaise on some bread.
Also, like, Stilgar like throws his big dick out there constantly in this first chapter, where he's like, "Hey, they have my countenance. Jamis, do I have to take you down again?"
Mm-hmm.
And then he invoked basically trial by combat.
Yeah, and I can't remember if it was this chapter or the one previous, but because basically Stilgar is telling Lady Jessica, like, don't get any ideas, don't like linger too close. I don't want people thinking that we're together.
That was the last chapter. He's like, I would take you as my woman, though.
As one of my women.
I
think it's specifically mentioned that there are several women that he has, which
But I think she would become his main.
Mm-hmm.
She's not side bitch material.
No, I mean, well,
never took a wife.
Yeah.
Never took.
Yeah, but still, he could have taken her as a wife just easy. Look what that got him. Maybe this all would have been avoided if he had just taken her as a wife.
So we learned that there's the Amtel rule. It's basically trial by combat, single combat, no still suits, blade, no shields. And it's talked about a lot that Paul like fights like he has a shield. Because Jessica's like, listen, and she threatens the shit out of Jamis.
Oh my goodness, she does. And then he's basically like, don't use your witchery on me, lady. Like, you better not use the voice. And then Stilgar's like, okay, you guys, like, don't say anything, Jessica.
There is the part in it where he turns to her and asks her something. And he goes, never mind, don't talk.
Yeah, he's like, oh, forgot, I told you not to say anything. Like, Jinx, you owe me a Coke. So that was kind of not necessarily weird. But there was
Jamis is basically like a angry proud boy.
oh, 100%. Like, come at me, bro. But I think that he does it a lot, like 100%. He does what he does out of anger because he sees Lady Jessica come in, he sees Paul come in, and basically, even though
Steal his
in
shine.
and yeah, like in normal circumstances, they just would have been killed, like no questions asked. Like, I think that he's basically doing it from a point of like, why do you think you're so special? Even though Paul never really asked for any of this, he's just playing a part that he knows that he has to play because of all of his like prescience.
I like that Jessica's like, she released Stilgar's arm. She's like, I'm always my own champion. The meaning's simple enough for, he's like, you'll not tell us our ways.
Mm-hmm. And that's something that we learn a lot about in these chapters. Like, I mean, each chapter, like, we go more and more, and we learn more about like Dune, like Arrakis. We learn more about the planet. We learn more about the Fremen culture. But in these, we learn a lot more about like their rituals and like the Siege, how those operate. We learn a lot about that.
I also love that she's like internally going, I could take this fucker. Like, I literally like could destroy him. And she's like, oh, I can't break the Missionaria Protectiva. You know, it's been twisted on this planet, but I can't.
And even though, like, you know, she's trained in all of these ways, she understands the prophecy that she has a part in playing, like, she knows that she's meant to fulfill. But I think that she's also, like, there's so many moments where she doubts it. Because even the moment when she has to, like, recite specific words in order to be able to set everything in motion for her to be able to become the Reverend Mother of the tribe, she's still kind of like guessing at it. And here in these chapters, she's like, I basically let the words flow through me because, and I truly like she gets possessed. She's like, I truly don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to let these words flow. It's going to be in some type of memory. And they're going to come out. And luckily they did, because they're like, okay, I guess you, really might be the, like Reverend Mother that needs to come. I forget the name that they call her, but
The Sayadina.
The Sayadina. So they're like, you know, I guess you might be. I guess that kind of proves it, but in order for us to really prove it, you're gonna have to fight some dude.
But it can't be you fighting him. It has to be your champion.
It has to be your champion.
It can't be a Fremen.
Oh, and I guess the only person here is your 15-year-old son.
And she keeps going, he's 15, he's too young.
He's too young. He's 15. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, during this entire fight between him and Jamis, Pajamas.
I'm just going with how Sid pronounces it now. I don't know.
I'm gonna call our boy Pajamas. Either that or, you know, Jimmy Jams. You know, you said something about clothing, so that's where he got it from. But in this whole thing, and it's been like this through each chapter, she knows that he has this part, that her son has this part to play. She knows that, like, there's certain things that need to be done, whether she knows them or not. And it's like she keeps using these mind powers to tell him, like, okay, you're fighting Pajama Boy, and I see Paul, and he's trained to fight using the shield, and his actions are too slow. Okay, his action was too slow here. His action was too slow here. Like, Paul, are you getting this, like, mind message that I'm sending you? And, you know, spoiler alert, but Paul does end up defeating Pajamas.
I do love, like, where, like, Stilgar starts to try to provoke him to get him to try and fight him instead. Where he's like, your son bested him. It was an accident. There was a witch force at Tuano Bassin, and I'll prove it now. And then he's like, I beat Jamis myself. Like, you know.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, there's too much violence in him ever to make a good leader. Too much gafla, the distraction. He gives his mouth to the rules and his heart to the sarfa, the turning away. No, he can never make a good leader. I preserved him this long because he's useful in a fight. When he gets this carving anger on him, he's dangerous. And Jamis does basically look like a Fred Flintstone. Wait, Stilgar! And Jessica's like, oh, he's trying to take that challenge away from Paul, which Stilgar, good dude.
Yeah. Because
I think Stilgar is still trying to like.
He's trying to get his way into Lady Jessica. He's trying to,
show me your weirding way.
Yeah, I mean, because that's basically what he wants her for, is to get a little bit of a little bit of weird action going on. But I think that there is this. I don't know if it was written intentionally this way, but it feels like Stilgar. He knows that this is a fight to the death going in, right?
Paul doesn't.
And so he knows that, like, he's trying to volunteer as tribute for Paul because he knows that it's to the death. So he's trying to save Paul in whatever way. But then even as the fight plays out, the person, maybe it's because you see it from Lady Jessica's point of view. She's just so tense and anxious, and it seems like he's just like, okay, I guess it's either going to be your son or it's going to be pajamas. And people watching this are going to be like, pajamas, what the fuck? It's Jamis or Jamis, whatever his name is. I'm just going to call him pajamas.
I also want to know what the exact calculation of liter johns is.
Oh yeah, so what's the ratio of like
liter johns of water? Like, is this a new metric system from Europe? Like,
yeah, because that's like a little bit of a sassy. That's how pajamas is like.
What's intended to this wealth?
She has 2 liter johns of water. For all we know, it could be like a cup. It could be like a cup of water is a liter john. And she's got so much of it. And she's like, I'm sorry, I'm just a dumb girl. And I'm from a like water-rich planet. Boo-hoo me. But ultimately, Jamis is killed by Paul. And Paul kind of goes through this like... because one of the rituals, the
Chani also tipped him off.
Yeah. Oh, during the fight, yeah. Chani was like, "Hey, just a heads up, like Jamis is."
He used both hands.
He switches his knife between his hands, and then after an attack, he always goes to the right. Like he always veers to the right. And so Paul, knowing, and then there's this weird moment where Jamis like jumps, but it sounds like he's like on the ground
Clumsy.
and like jumps, and I just imagine him being like, I'm gonna climb you like a spider monkey, and like just goes in for the
I'm all hopped up on Mountain Dew.
I'm all hopped out on Mountain Dew. But that's not good water discipline, Jamis. That's why you're dead.
Also, like, Gurney Halleck's words were playing in Paul's head, like, the good knife fighter thinks on point and blade, and shearing guard simultaneously. The point can also cut, the blade can also stab, the shearing guard can also trap your opponent's blade. Paul's like, there's not one on this knife.
Yeah.
I got a Chris knife.
He's like, do I even know? And so I think that because there's this moment when Paul was like, I don't even know if this knife can break. Like, how does this knife work?
And Jamis goes, may the knife chip and shatter. And he's like, oh, it breaks.
He's like, oh, okay, I guess it can break. So like Paul at this point doesn't really know the importance of a Chris knife just yet. Like maybe a little bit, like obviously Jessica does, but we don't know if he really understands it. Like Paul is learning all of these, like not only is he like going through these like mind fuck flashback flash forward things, but he's also learning all of these crazy things about the Fremen and their culture, all while Chani's just like snuggling up against him the entire time. She's like by his side. Every single chapter right there. Also, like, she uses kind of the voice to terrify Jamis beforehand, where she's like, if you harm my son, you'll have me to meet. I call you out now. I'll carve you into a joint of... And Paul's like, Mom, like stop. Calm down. You think he's a 15-year-old kid. Like, that's your mom coming to fight the bullies on the playground, right?
Yeah, like, it's just... Literally, like, Jamis is like, oh God, like, I'm kind of scared. She's like, yeah, bitch.
Yeah, like that's what you get for calling me out, man.
And Jamis keeps pouncing. Like he's literally like jumping constantly.
It's because he's hopped up on Mountain Dew.
I bet it's Code Red.
Oh, yep. Like, and there's a specific era of like Code Red from like 2000, I would say 2007 to 2008, that's like just fueled by the blood of World of Warcraft players.
Or Four Loko.
Or Four Loko, or both.
Ooh.
Code Red Four Loko.
And then there's, yeah, because this is the part where Stilgar is like, all right, your son's fucking with him. Like, knock it the fuck off. He's like, is your son playing with this poor fool? And he's like,
right?
sorry, you must remain silent. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot my own rule. Like, and again, she's like, kind of acquiescing to like Stilgar, where he knows she could fucking destroy him in a minute if she chose to.
Oh, for sure.
So she's playing the long game. And then Paul cut Jamis's hand, and he was like, "Oh, first blood. All right, that one hurt."
Yep.
Like you can tell, Stilgar doesn't really like Jamis very much.
No, not at all. I think that's why he was like chomping at the bit actually to like get him. That's why he volunteered his tribute almost.
He's like, "Oh no, ooh." Chuck Norris thumbs up. And then he's like, "Have an end to it. Don't play with him." And he's still like, "You asshole. Fucking just knock it off." And Paul's like, "Do you yield?" He's like, "Do you not understand?"
Yeah, like everyone is like, oh, like you don't know if like that's him like playing. And then at the end of the fight, whenever Jamis dies, his mom is basically like, stop gloating in this, like you little shit. Like once again, grabbing him by the ear in front of all of his friends and saying, like, don't let this get to your head. Like, are you okay that you just killed someone? Like, you need to understand the severity of what just happened.
Oh, yeah, and she hit him with the tone. She purposely hit him with the tone. And that's where I'm like, Jessica's a good mom.
Yeah. I really think that she deserves to be the hero of the story, but that's, you know.
But, like, I'm okay with, like, she kind of is. But there's a part later in this where he's like, "My mom is my enemy."
Oh, like is that the end? That's the last chapter.
We'll get to it. We'll get to that.
We'll get to that in a little bit. Because
we're actually staying on point with the chapters here.
We really are.
This first chapter is pretty meaty.
It is, and that's why I think that we only did like 3 chapters this time.
Yeah. This got some big Stilgar energy though, because Stilgar is like very much like in this, and like I started in my head going, man, I can't wait to see Javier Bardem. Like,
yeah, I was just thinking, I'm like, wait, who's playing Stilgar? Yeah, for sure.
Like him those lines, because like if he delivers them like he did in No Country for Old Men, flip the coin. What do I win? Everything. That is a great moment in cinema, that fucking scene. Like seriously, like it has so much tension and drama. If he can even bring like a leader John of that to this, whatever that John is.
Who knows at this point?
I need Sid to like comment on this next week of like, hey, what's a leader John? And just hear it go, wait, what the fuck did you just say? Well, you were in Asia. You must know. Like, we don't know your European measurements.
Okay, so it's
Rod, get some sleep, bro. Thank you for stopping in. Appreciate it. You're the best. Go check out his stuff this weekend with the community shoutout show and Coast to Coast. Sorry for the aside, but Rod is such a great supporter of ours. So
seriously, Rod, and not just like us, but for the community in general.
Like now he's getting the British guys on.
Yeah, and I think that they're going to be doing something this Tuesday, maybe. Okay, so a leader John is 1 liter.
Oh.
Not as exciting as I thought it was going to be, but
okay. I need him to bring a gallon of
a liter of cola. I want a liter of cola.
God damn it, Farva! Does it look like spit in my burger? Yeah. God damn it.
He deserved it. Totally deserved it.
We need a Farva in this.
Who would be the? I don't know.
I feel like probably Janice.
Yeah.
Irrationally angry.
Well, I mean, Farva lasted at least like what, the first movie and the second one, and if there was, I don't know if there was a third
Never saw
one.
part 2.
Oh, it kind of did the same thing that, in my opinion, that Anchorman did. The first one had so many good like one-liners that the second one it didn't cut it.
Also, there's some like Duncan energy in this where he's remembering something. When your opponent fears you, then's the moment when you give the fear its own reign. Give it the time to work on him. Let it become terror. The terrified man fights himself. Eventually, he attacks in desperation. That is the most dangerous moment, but the terrified man can be trusted usually to make a fatal mistake. You're being trained here to detect those mistakes and use them.
This is one of those moments that Paul gets scolded for after the fight because, like, not only is Paul like kind of like fucking up the attack and then being like, do you yield? But then he's also circling. So that like that quote was whenever Paul was circling Pajamas, trying to be like okay,
almost taunting.
Yeah, like physically taunting him.
Because Jessica's one. The crowd is muttering, and they're like, they think he's toying with him. Mm-hmm. They think Paul's being needlessly cruel.
Yep.
And then, Chani's warning goes, Jameis fights with either hand. Keep the mind of the night. And earlier, they kind of led to this because Gurney gets him with that move where he's like, I got your gut. And he's like, my dad would be upset. He's like, he'd be really upset if he knew that I failed you as a teacher.
Exactly. So, Mr. Frank Herbert, we've come a full circle here.
Bad footwork.
Yeah. Especially for Paul, like doing this like little like shuffle. He's doing it barefoot in his loincloth. Now
I'm hearing party rock. Every day I'm shuffling. I'm sorry. No sleep. There's also another Duncan idea. Killing with the point lacks artistry. But don't let that hold your hand when the opening presents itself.
Yep. Which is exactly what Paul does.
Yes, and I could see this in like slow motion in the movie with Paul's hand, and then just slow motion of the body just.
Yeah. During these chapters that we read, I didn't get too much of how I see it in the movie. Like in a lot of the chapters that we've read so far, I've been like, okay, this is how I can view how they're going to do it in the movie, or this would be the chapter that they would leave out or like shift around if they need to. In these chapters, I don't know where, like if they're just going to do it verbatim in the movie or, what's going to happen.
This actual chapter is the one I think they ended at because they give him his Fremen name.
Yep. Okay. So they call him, Usul, but then what's the
Paul
other one?
Muad'Dib.
Yeah, so Paul, they call him Paul because Paul wants to keep his name because he's still,
Atreides.
He's still an Atreides boy. So he still wants to keep his like maiden name or his paternal name, and he wants to be known as what's the name of the mouse like jumping?
Muad'Dib.
Yeah. So
I desperately, if they end it with his speech about fucking Jamis, I'm gonna rage.
I'm not saying that I think that they would leave that out, but I wouldn't be surprised if they left that out, or at least shortened it so it's not corny. Because if it's not done right,
version. Oh.
Yeah, if this isn't done right, it's going to be way too corny. I could see them leaving it in because they couldn't fit this whole book into one movie, so I'm glad that they're doing it into 2 movies. But I think that this is the little, Jameis was a friend of mine. Oh, no, Jameis was a friend of mine. No, I'm Spartacus. I
do love that they constantly refer to Chani as elven-faced.
Elfin-faced, yeah.
Yes.
And Lady Jessica's like...
Oh, she's like, this bitch.
So, like... Chani is so like sus. Like I imagine her being like, that girl is suspect. You need to stay away from my little boy.
these foreign girls are,
I think I hate the term when they say that like they've gone native, but I think that was used at some point in these, and I was just like, every time I hear it, it just like it leaves a really bad taste in my brain.
But when you think who says it, though,
Still,
it's not very like surprising, because I believe it was the emperor, not the emperor, Baron Harkonnen, who says,
yeah, wouldn't surprise me because it sounds racist. I mean, it kind of is, but
he's Donald Trump. I mean, let's
yeah.
By the way, go vote tomorrow.
Speaking of Mr. Baron Harkonnen, we get a lot of them in the next chapter.
No, we don't.
Oh wait,
it's Jamis's funeral.
That's right. Okay.
But when they start giving Paul shit,
yeah, because Paul's not standing up, and in I guess Fremen culture, he should be standing up.
She compressed ultimate scorn in her voice and manner and said, "Well, now how does it feel to be a killer?" And he stiffened, and it was like he got hit.
Mm-hmm.
And then Stilgar,
that well was drawn out. Well, there was like 6 L's there.
When the time comes for you to call me out and try for my Berta, do not think you will play with me the way you play with Jamis. Mm-hmm. So he's like, but I
double scorned.
But I won. And then everybody was like giving him kind of shit. And then like she looked at Stilgar, saw his fatalism, knew how the fight had seemed to him. And then Paul looked at his mother. He's like, you know what it was? And she heard the return to sanity, the remorse in his voice. And then she swept the room and goes, Paul has never before killed a man with a naked blade.
And it's like, well, like with a sheathed blade? Like, what?
I wasn't playing with him. And then, like, they're looking at the dark place where Jamis's blood was. As soon as Jamis died, people took his body away immediately to go prepare it to take his water.
I had to read that, like, half a page 2 or 3 times because maybe I missed the part where it said that like his eyes were dead or whatever it was that mentioned that Pajamas was dead, and I missed that the first like couple of reads, I guess, this time. And so I'm like, and then so I skipped over that for some reason, and then it mentioned how like they pounced over his body and immediately started wrapping him up, and I'm like, he's not even dead yet. So I had to like so I had to like go back and read it, and I'm like, wait, okay, he did die. I guess since that was just so quick, I was like, they're pouncing on him before he's dead. And
I was picturing like the performance, like the Oscar moment. I didn't want to kill him. Like,
I'm a freak.
And then Stilgar's like, that's why you asked him to yield. I'm like, you so want Lady Jessica's pants. Like, you want in her still suit so bad. You're just like, yeah, I see. I see now. Yeah.
Yeah. He knows that she's got some leader johns, and he wants to mess with that. He wants to mess with that wet ass.
I thought we'd admitted a scorpion in our midst, and I shall not call you lad no more. I'm just like, what the? Like, literally, it's just like, hey, girl, I'm going to protect your son. Mm-hmm. He needs a naming. Let's get it on. There's been some blood on the floor. And then he's tugging at his beard. He's like, yeah, what we got? What you do? I see strength in you, like the strength beneath a pillar.
Yeah, because that's what it means. It means like the middle of the pillar, or the strength of the middle pillar,
the something base like of the that. Pillar.
Yeah.
This is your secret name. Only the troops shall know.
Mm.
And this is what your dream was of. Tell me about your planet, Usul. He goes, huh?
Yeah, but at the end of this chapter, she says, tell me about the waters of your birth world, Paul Muad'Dib.
Mm-hmm. And he changed.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, the flowing of the prescience.
Yep. because he keeps mentioning about how, or he keeps seeing like all of these people following him, and he sees the plans of things to become, and he really just doesn't want to become a cruel leader, and he's like, I can't let that happen.
Oh, I like now. What name of manhood do you choose for you to call you openly? It'd be funny if he like named that thing that you Peppy. If he they picked Peppy with the name you're always saying from It's Always Sunny. Pepe Silva.
Pepe Silva.
Pepe
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Silva. I
There
am
is
Pepe
no
Silva.
Pepe Silva.
I am Pepe Silva Atreides. Pepe Silva Muad'Dib. Um, and then he picks Paul Muad'Dib. Muad'Dib is the jumping mouse, and it provides its own water.
Yeah.
Jessica gasped. It was the name Paul had told her, saying that the Fremen would accept them and call him this. She felt fear.
Yeah.
And he was like, he played a part already, played over countless times in his mind, yet there were differences. He could see himself perched on a dizzying summit, having experienced much and possessed of a profound store of knowledge, but all around him was abyss. Boy, we're getting a lot of play out of this one chapter.
Yeah.
So, they go on and on. Now you are of the Ichwan Bedouin, our brother, and now Paul Muad'Dib, tighten up that still suit. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. And then they go through the like. Here's where we get to see a little bit more of the Fremen culture as well when they're going through. Like, I had a hard time imagining it. Like, is it like a tunnel? Is it like where they're going through? They're like slipping in between rocks. I don't know. Whatever, wherever the hell they are.
Also, they talk about currency. What is the repayment at field rates? 10 for 1 on liter johns of water. Like, I was just like,
yeah.
What the? Just drop this the fuck in here. I'm like, but I don't know. Like, I'm just sitting there like, a liter isn't much, and they're just like, ooh, you fucking rich bitch.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was like, as to Jamis, I order the full ceremony. Let's get his dead ass body out of here.
Yeah.
And then the next chapter, it starts with the shortest Irulan quote. God created Arrakis to train the faithful.
To train the faithful, yeah.
The wisdom of Muad'Dib. One sentence.
Not from the collected sayings of Muad'Dib, just...
So I need, like, just a bibliography of all her books. Like,
I found it already. I have a list.
Oh, did you?
Mm-hmm.
Is it about 8, maybe more?
Maybe it was somewhere between 10 and 15, I think.
Wow, she's like the True Blood author. She's like, I got these in me, and that's all I've got.
Yeah, right.
So we go into the ceremony for Jamis, which they put his water into just a sack.
And then Chani,
as all his belongings.
Yeah, Chani's like, hey, I can go ahead and teach you how, because you're going to have to hold on to this water, Mr. Paul Muad'Dib. You're going to have to hold on to this water. I can go ahead and show you how to organize it, how to like fasten it to you so you're not heard while you're walking. And Paul just makes the comment, oh, do you want to hold it for me? And everyone around just gasps, and Stilgar comes in and he's like, okay, hold up. Paul doesn't know the ways.
And then he's
he
like,
doesn't know that Paul doesn't know that this is like a ceremonial, like marriage offer. Yeah, like he doesn't understand that. And he basically, it's funny because Chani seems so taken aback, but I'm like, girl, like literally he killed Jamis, and it's describing that you're like cheek to cheek with him this entire time, that you're holding him, that you're right by his side. But then as soon as he's like, hey girl, you want to hold my water? She's like, what? I don't know. You'd think she'd be into holding his water.
She wants to hold something.
She wants to hold his water. Is what she wants to do.
And I'm like, in her mouth or like in...
She just wants to hold it. Just bukkake style, maybe. I don't know.
Well, that's a whole Fremen.
That doesn't sound like good water discipline. So
no,
that's not canon.
Oh, but he also we'll get to that. Yeah, so like Jessica's looking at Chani and she's like, okay, like Paul needs to like have a talk. We need to have like the talk.
Yeah, which is surprising because you would think that while you had all this extra fucking time wandering the desert, while you're just sitting there for like the sun to go down, you could have been having this talk. But I guess now is an appropriate time.
Yeah, because Paul must be cautioned about their women. One of these desert women would not do as a wife to a duke. As a concubine, yes, but not as a wife.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, have I been infected with his schemes? Like, and she saw how well she behaved. I can think of marital needs of royalty without once weighing my own concubinage. Yet, I want more than concubine. I was more than a concubine.
But were you? Who are you trying to convince, Jessica?
Herself. She's like, I was the Duke's woman. Yes. But there's a lot of buts here. And I cannot lie. Then there's the weighing of the water.
Mm-hmm.
Which also like has ridiculous fucking figures and shit. Oh God, where is it? Oh yeah, Paul quotes the Bible, and Jessica's like, "Where did he learn that quote from?"
Where did he learn that from?
He hasn't studied it. And then like China's like, "Thus it is spoken." I was like, "Girl, you thirsty?"
Mm-hmm.
What are like Fremen thirst picks?
They're all thirst picks.
Girl, you got your robe hiked up. Show me your water discipline.
No, because I think that the Fremen wouldn't be Puritan like that at all. Especially when you think about like the spice orgies and stuff that happen. Like they are not. I wouldn't say that they would be discouraged by a little bit of ankle whatsoever.
So the time for the funeral finally comes around like 20 pages in. And Stilgar's like, Jamis' weapon has been killed. Jamis has been called by him, by Shai-Hulud, who has ordained the phases of the moon, the daily wane, and in the end appear as bent and withered twigs. Thus it is with pajamas. The friends of Jamis will approach. And then, like, these people kind of didn't like Jamis.
No, nothing is, but I think that it's because everyone is expecting Paul to say something. So they're maybe just like stepping in and coming up with whatever's on the top of their head. Oh no. We lost him. Okay. Just me. I'm here to talk about Dune. So in this one, we are talking about Jamis's funeral, and everyone just kind of comes around and is like, I was his friend, and I was his friend.
Sorry.
Okay. No, that's okay. I was just going to ramble, and I was just going to go shot by shot of Dune. But I was basically rambling about how everyone's like, I was a friend of Jamis, and I was a friend of Jamis. And I know that like they're this culture, the Fremen culture is very much like, you know, your skin belongs to you, but your water belongs to the tribe.
Except in single combat, then it belongs to.
Yes. But then they're like basically picking apart all of his possessions. Like, oh, that's mine. Oh, that's mine. And of course, Paul grabs the
ballast set.
The ballast set.
But I like Stilgar's like, as leader, I take this. As leader, I take this.
As a leader.
Yes.
A leader, cola.
Leader. So he's just like, For Jamis woman and for the guards, we give her a book. I'm just like, really, bro? Like,
Okay.
a book? Okay. And then, everybody's got war stories they're basically telling. Like, Jamis saved me here. Jamis did this. And then Paul does the thing where he starts crying.
And everyone was like, oh, he's crying over this dude he just killed? What?
And let me recreate the TV series version of it real quick. I was a friend of Jamis. Jamis taught me that when you kill, you pay for it. I wish I'd known Jamis better. Oh my God, tears. End scene.
I really hope that I truly do hope that they leave that out, or at least don't go like full Shakespearean acting. I mean, you did a pretty good job there, but I hope that they leave that out during the movie.
I hope so too, because I honestly, I know it's supposed to be an emotional moment, but I swear to God, there's some things in that TV movie, it's very true to the book, and then there's stuff that's fucked out beyond recreation. Paul wearing a fucking samurai kimono or gi at the end.
Yeah.
And the hats. The hats are out of control. And I imagine Frank Herbert going, listen, there's no truth in this. I said furniture. I want fucking furniture.
Where are the filing cabinets? Where's the filing cabinet?
Where is my chair in the wall that folds out?
Where are the chair dogs? No, I'm just kidding. That one did have chair dogs. Oh, wait,
I want the glow globes. I did not see a fucking rug in here. I want textiles.
So, I
want coffee. I want fucking coffee in this goddamn movie.
Yes. I know that, this is a safe place and I can go ahead and admit this. Every time I saw the word glow globe, my brain said snow globe. And it took me half the chapter to realize that they were saying glow globe and not snow globe. And my brain was just imagining them with a snow globe, shaking it up.
Kind of like Dune by Boom.
Dune by Boom. Snow by Globe.
Oh God, I can't. So more of this, and everybody's like, oh my God, and they're touching his cheeks oh my God, he's giving up his water.
Mm-hmm.
This is fucking bad discipline, but beautiful.
Yeah.
I imagine it was them imagining it raining on the planet, oh. At least they weren't licking the tears. I'm that would just be weird.
Maybe they were.
He gives moisture to the dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then Paul grabs the balisette. She's play a song, and Paul's well, this is a song I learned from Gurney, and Jessica's this motherfucker's playing a love song.
Yep. Why is he singing this love song specifically to Chani? But you gotta do what you gotta do.
But this is after they went down into a damp tunnel where Paul's the air feels. Paul turned a questioning stare, and Chani tugged her arm. The air feels damp. She's like, shh, 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 shh.
Yeah.
Shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
And this is what I was talking about earlier. They go through this tunnel, and we get to see not only more information about Arrakis and the planet, but we get to see Fremen culture and ultimately some of the science that Liet Kynes planted, where he wanted this to happen because they know that there's this specific amount of water that they can collect, and they've got little hidden troves of water everywhere, that once it reaches a certain point, it'll be enough to completely re-terraform the entire planet.
And Jessica's like, man, they got their measurement ship down.
Down to like an exact drop, it seems like, right?
Yes. Is that what we're gonna call them? Is that thirst traps, moisture traps?
Moisture traps.
Because
And
it's a wind trap, but
there's even um a difference in wording that Jessica remembers, and I forget what the difference is between two of them. But there's a specific like two words that she's like, no, not this word, it's another word, and it's such a subtle difference. But that's
and then Paul starts freaking out because he's like, I've seen this place in a dream, and in it, like ahead of him, there's fanatic hordes that cut their gory path across the universe in his name. The green and black Atreides banner becomes a symbol of terror. Wild legions charge into battle, screaming the war cry Muad'Dib. And he's just like, okay, I'm about to go emo again because I'm fucking terrified.
Yeah.
And he's just like, can't let it happen. I can't let it happen. And we'll get to that when we get to it.
Yeah. But then, after the
even the thirsty won't even tip their hands in the water to even.
Yeah.
They mentioned that too. That they have great water discipline about that. Like that is like forbidden. Like way fucking forbidden.
So the last chapter here is this like really intense
oh no, hold on, we're not done with the Chani stuff.
Oh, I thought
he's strumming and she's like, it's a good balisette. Why don't you play me a song? And Jessica's last words were, why does my son sing a love song to that girl child?
To that girl child, yeah.
She felt an abrupt fear. She could sense life flowing around her, and she had no grasp on its reins. Why did he choose that song? She wondered. The instincts are true. Something. Why did he do this? And then Paul sits in the darkness, a single stark thought dominating his awareness. My mother is my enemy. She does not know it, but she is. She is bringing the jihad. She bore me. She trained me. She is my enemy. What a fucked up thing.
Yeah.
For a son to think of his mother. And then we have one of the most non-necessary quotes from Irulan. The concept of progress acts as a protective mechanism to shield us from the terrors of the future. From the collected sayings of Muad'Dib. I believe that's her Deathly Hollows.
Her Deathly Hollows.
So now it's Fade, Baron Harkonnen, Count and Lady Fenring. Apparently we can't give Lady a name. She doesn't
lady. Have a name. Maybe she does in here, but I just kind of like glossed over it for whatever reason.
There is a great thing from the Count here where he's going, the servants revealed their military training in the way they walked and the set of their shoulders and the way their eyes watched and watched and watched. And he's like, he hums the words. He goes, the pressure is on. The Baron's just beginning to see the price he really paid to rid himself of Duke Leto. Sometimes I must recount for you the legend of the Phoenix. And then when the Baron comes, all of a sudden he starts kind of talking stupid as like kind of a feint. He does a lot of ho-humming. And Lady Fenring's like, the young man's poise and the sure flow of his muscles beneath the tunic. Here's one who won't get fat.
Yeah, like there's this moment where I'm like, is she into him? Is she not? Like he wants to, dedicate his win to her or his fight to her. And she's like, nope, you don't get to do that.
And she was golden-haired and willowy, her perfection of figure clothed in a flowing gown of ecru. Gray-green eyes stared back at him. She had that Bene Gesserit serene repose about her that the young man found subtly disturbing. The Count is such an interesting character because you kind of hear he's a genetic eunuch. In a couple of, the last week we talked about it, like how he's described, and everybody's scared shitless of this guy.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, for good reason. I'd hate to have a conversation with him. That was the most painful part of this whole book thus far, was the way that he hums and like I was almost
But he also
bored
finds his
reading this.
insulting talk in
Yeah.
it, where he's like, "When you're ironic, that suggests you're thinking deep thoughts." And Fate's going, "There he goes again. Sounds like he's being insulting, but there's nothing you can call out for satisfaction."
Yep, like you can't pinpoint it, but you know just from his tone that he's being a jerk.
Yeah, basically. Um, he also like Fade starts to say something, and the Baron's like, "Shut the fuck up." I believe he goes, and he thought, that imp, does he want this deadly count to call him out?
Yep.
And again, they say the count's got like kind of a cherub face and kind of like unsuspecting how deadly he is, and also the way he talks. But then there's a cone of silence that they go into, and that whole facade goes the fuck away real quick.
As soon as they and they specifically mention, you know, whenever they are there talking, they're not I think that there's a moment where they're not even looking at each other, but then they're turned away
The Baron turns his back.
so that no one can read lips. So like not only do they need to go into this cone of silence where no one can hear them, but they need to turn away so no one can like read lips. But then there's this point where it sounds like the two aren't facing each other. Maybe I misread that, but I thought that was kind of peculiar.
They turn facing the wall so their lips could not be read.
Yeah.
And right away the Count goes, "We are unhappy that you sent the Sardaukar off Arrakis."
Yeah, we do not appreciate the way that you handled all this bullshit.
And then he was like, "Your nephew does not appear to be pressing strongly enough toward the solution of the Fremen problem." And again, he's like, "What Fremen problem? There's barely any of them." He goes,
"There's like 5 of them left on
"Listen."
the planet. Like, whatever.
And he's just like, "Who says the southern tip is uninhabitable? Your own planetologist said it, my dear Count, but Dr. Kynes is dead." Unfortunate.
Want.
And he's like super pissed about Thufir Hawat being alive. Like,
yeah.
What? He's like, "Kill the motherfucker."
Like, why do you keep him around? He obviously knows this bullshit that you've been up to. You, like, basically keeping him alive is a threat not only to you, but to all of this stuff that's going on. Keeping him alive and around just because he's useful, he's still a threat. Like, a threat is a threat.
He's just like, "Yeah, the Emperor can't be unhappy about the death of the concubine and the boy. They fled into the desert. There was a storm." And the Count's like, "Yeah, very convenient, those accidents."
Yep.
And the Baron's like, "I don't like your tone. Anger is one thing, the violence is another. Let me caution you, should an unfortunate accident occur to me here, the great houses all would learn what you did on Arrakis. They've long suspected how you do business." And then he's like, "Oh, well, the transportation of several legions of Sardaukar to Arrakis, is that what you're talking about?" He goes, "You think you can hold that over the Emperor's head?" "Oh, I wouldn't think of it." And then, basically he's like, "Sardaukar commanders could be found who'd confess they acted without orders because they wanted to battle with your Fremen scum." And the Baron's like, "Are they that disciplined? Like, what the fuck?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, the Emperor wants to see your books. He wants to audit your shit.
He wants to make sure you're not hiding anything. Like, these numbers just don't add up." Yeah.
And then he's like, "I can be Emperor." Like, in his thoughts, he's like, "Try it. Come after me, bro. Like, the people will love me. I'll have a second suspensor under my chin."
I was going to say, I don't know if he necessarily thinks that the people will love him.
They'd flock to him.
They're going to fear him, basically. He's going to rule by fear is what's going to happen.
And he's like, does he think to frighten me by reminding me that he is supported by bloodthirsty killers? And then he's kind of like shooting back like, "Hey, I was thinking about turning, Arrakis into a prison planet, kind of like Seleucus Secundus."
Yep, he's basically like, "Well, how did you get that idea to do that? Like, don't you have to make the planet habitable?" He's, "No."
"You must admit it'd be a way to develop a substantial workforce on Arrakis." And he's like, "What, you anticipate a increase in prison?" There's been unrest. I suggest you not use Iraq as a. Oh, by the way, we haven't really decided if Fade is like worthy of being your heir. We have to decide that shit. And he's like, huh? The fuck you say?
Mm-hmm. Like, you don't, and I think it's basically like he's scolding him. He's like, you don't get to just name your heir. Like, we get to do that. You don't get to do that.
Yeah, Baron's like, I hope you don't think the Emperor doesn't. I hope the Emperor doesn't believe he can move against me in total secrecy. And he's like, I hope it won't become necessary. So there's like some verbal like back and forth going on. He's like, the Emperor believes what his senses tell him. And he's like, dare the Emperor to charge me treason. I fucking dare you. I double dog dare you. I triple dog dare you. And he's like, the Emperor needs dare nothing. And he turns his back to him. And
that's probably why, like, I read that like their backs were turned at one point.
And that's when Fade's just like, lady, do I have your leave? Like, and she's like, no, little man.
Like, you don't even get to think about that. That does not belong to you whatsoever.
Yeah, because like Fade's completely like into her. He's like, she is just my jam.
Mm-hmm. There's something about her that I really like.
Where is it? Where he's just like, he's also commenting like, this place has the bull's the painting and the bull's head in here. Like, why the fuck is it hanging here?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then they're like, oh, he wears white for poison, black for purity. A curious custom, isn't it?
Yeah, that whole like glove thing going on. That was weird.
And he has the short knife.
The short knife and the long knife, and
yes.
one of them is supposed to have poison on it, but I'm going to trick them and I'm going to put poison on the other.
The long knife.
Yeah, and then he keeps having this like internal conversation about how he knew that the slave that he was fighting wasn't poisoned, and that normally when they're poisoned they look orange. I just imagined an Oompa Loompa, and in this case he was painted orange, but he wasn't actually poisoned.
Yes, and he'd also like cut himself and did the Atreides hawk.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, motherfucker.
He's like, this is a sign and I am not taking it.
And he's also like, fucking Hawat. Should have killed this motherfucker. And they did the gladiator thing, hold up the knives to the sun, salute the three corners of the arena. Poison on the black blade.
Okay.
Which is the long blade. Which normally you'd expect it would be on the dagger.
Yep.
And that's when the young fool's going to dedicate to Letty Fenring after all and cause a ruckus.
I feel like we should be calling her of Fenring. Like, she doesn't have a name. She's just has her husband's name of Fenring.
They describe the gladiator as a tall, muscular man with shaved head and darkly pitted eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Bless you. Bless you.
The belt.
Bless you.
The belt's arrow pointing left to indicate the slave's left side was shielded.
Bless you.
He held his knife sword fashion cocked slightly outward in the stance of a trained fighter. And he's like, I don't like the look of this one. He has the color, though, of being drugged, yet he stands like a fighter.
So Fade, cut through. He saw the bullshit. Like, he just saw right through it. My favorite, let me see where this was. I mean, maybe this is a little bit like this is mid-fight between the two. where Fade, like, I don't know if it's just him getting cocky or what, but he's like, I'll give them I'll give them a show such they've never seen before. No tame killing where they can sit back and admire the style. Like, he is out for blood.
And then he goes back to what Hawat said before. He's like, you'll come out of this a hero, kill your gladiator man to man, and in spite of treachery, the slave master will be executed and your man will step into his spot. And then he's just like, fucking Hawat, let there be treachery in Hawat's mind. I can handle this slave, and it's my long knife that carries the poison this time, not the short one. Even Hawat doesn't know that. And then the slave's like, hi, Harkonnen, are you prepared to die?
Mm-hmm.
And I picture like an Inigo Montoya.
Prepared to die.
And like, Faith's just like, all right, like, I'm looking at the way he's stayed. The slave grapevine has carried Hawat's message to this one. You'll get a true chance to kill the Knob Baron. He's like, if this dude was like partly crippled by drug-induced terror, he's not showing it. Mm-mm. There might be fear, but there's not terror.
Yep.
And he's like, during this, he's like, gods, what a fighting man. Jesus. I am not here for this shit. Like, I've been fighting drug dudes constantly.
Yeah.
And then he drew his short blade. And he's like, let the family see me do this thing. I am their enemy. Let them think of me as they see me now. And the slave-shifted knife hands comes back again.
Yep. There was a lot of parallels, in my opinion, between these. Not like a lot of parallels, but I could see some similarities between the fight that we just saw between Paul in pajamas and then between Fade and the slave. So that was apparently the theme of this little trifecta of chapters.
And the wrong blade carried the poison.
Mm-hmm.
You, the man, moaned, and then drew back to give death its space. The paralyzing drug and the poison had yet to take full effect, but the man's slowness told of its advance. One day, one of us will get you, he gasped. And then Count Fenring turned to his lady, a resourceful young man, my dear. His synaptic responses are very swift.
Unlike everyone else having regular conversations. I hated this chapter because of that. Like, that was a very specific thing that Mr. Herbert, Sherbert, whatever, like put into here. The way that they talk, that got under my skin.
And then Fade decides, bury the slave intact with his knife in his hand. The man earned it after they were saying, like, take his head, take his head.
Mm-hmm.
And then Count Fenring's like, a grand gesture, that true bravura your nephew has, style as well as courage. He insults the crowd by refusing the head. Not at all, Lady Fenring said. She actually said like 5 words this chapter. They like what your nephew did. And
but she's got the best line. Like, I don't know if it's just me getting ahead of myself, but the absolute best line at the end of the chapter, because she goes, there's a Bene Gesserit saying, in her, you have sayings for everything, and she says, you'll like this one. It goes, do not count a human dead until you've seen his body. And even then, you can make a mistake.
Oh, I do like he's like, you don't anticipate difficulty seducing him, my little brood mother? Oh, no. You saw how he looked at me. Yes, and I can see now why we must have that bloodline. Indeed. Yeah. And it's obvious we must have a hold on him. I'll plant deep in his deepest self the necessary pranabindu phrases to bond him. We'll leave as soon as possible, as soon as you're sure. She shuddered. By all means. I should not want to bear a child in this terrible place. And I'm just like, woo. And he's like, the things we do in the name of humanity. Whew.
I got total Game of Thrones, like the things or what does Jamie Lannister say? Like
The things you do for
the
love.
things you do for love. Yeah.
And then she's like, "My poor dear, you know this is why. This is the only way to be sure of saving that bloodline." And he's like, "I quite understand what we do. We won't fail. Guilt starts as a feeling of failure," he reminded. "There'll be no guilt. Hypnoligation of the Fade Rotha psyche in his child in my womb, then we go." That uncle, have you ever seen such distortion? He's pretty fierce, but the nephew could well grow to be worse. Thanks to that uncle, you know, we think what this lad could have been with some other upbringing. With the Atreides code to guide him, for example. It's sad. Would that we could have saved both the Atreides youth and this one. From what I heard of that young Paul, a most admirable lad, good union of breeding and training. But we shouldn't waste sorrow over the atrocity of misfortune. I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
So more into the whole Bene Gesserit thing. He's like, look, I'm a genetic unit. Like, go to town, get knocked up.
Do what you need to do.
Let's get the fuck out of town.
Yeah.
Like, literally, like, yeah, just like,
get some of that blood.
Just don't kiss him. Just don't kiss him on the mouth.
No kissing on the mouth.
Like, it's interesting. Like, there, like, again, there's like 3 meaty chapters. Like, very interesting overall. Holy shit.
I
don't know why, but it says we've been online for 2 hours, and that's not right.
Weird.
Yeah, something's wrong. Anyway, I was just like, wait, what?
No. I not necessarily skipped ahead, but I think if it's not too many pages, it's like pretty short, and I don't know if we just want to go short considering this upcoming week that we may be having. But we could probably stop at book 3.
Which upcoming week? Because we only got 2 shows this week.
Yeah, but it's like a nightmare week of the election.
Oh, well, I mean, tomorrow's the election. I mean, everything's a nightmare lately.
Yeah, but I would say for the sake of our sanity to maybe keep it as short as possible and just go up to book 3, which is the start of the prophet.
That is fine. That's good because we can end at the book and just be like, that's a good stopping point. So that would be 552 to 587 for you book readers. For the ebooks, Sid, just keep going until you hit book 3, The Prophet. Yeah. Because that's kind of where we're at with that.
I didn't even count how many like chapters it was. I'm just like, oh, it may actually only even be like, I
think it's like 2.
Yeah, 1 or 2 chapters.
So we are quite fucking far in this book.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, we thought that we were going to get the movie.
Yes. But then we were like, we don't have a movie. It's like, fuck it, let's go do Messiah.
Yeah.
Like, thank you everybody who keep coming and watching this. Like, last week was a week basically. We had 13 views, but you know what? Had fun.
Yeah.
And that's what we've been doing and having fun. Of course, we are sad to not have Cidnya and Sid with us. But this is what, had they not joined us, this is what the show would have been.
Exactly.
Just Jen and I, like, talking about, like, hey, we love Dune. Sometimes we wonder why we love Dune. Because
it hurts sometimes. I wish I knew how to quit you. Not really.
My beat up copy.
Yeah.
But you also had the spicy Dune meme of when you meet that girl and all she does is talk about Dune.
Yeah.
Or was it like you think she's hot?
It was like when she's cute and you want to date her, but all she talks about is Dune.
And then we started adding our own things, but like
and comics.
When all he does is talk comics and horror and Dune.
Yep.
And then Sid's like, when all she does is talk about comics, anime, Dune, and K-pop. And I forget what year you had like another interesting one. Like
It was just comics. I think I just put comics.
okay, because I just remember going.
That's it.
I thought there was something besides comics, but
We'll never know because those go away after 24 hours.
no, not in the messages.
Oh.
I know this is really exciting stuff, but now I'm curious if I do it. Oh no, you didn't reply to it. I just put in horror movies and you hearted it.
Won't want. Sorry.
It's okay. Like we all survive somehow, some way. Yeah, it's not there. Never mind. Anywho, so again, thank you for joining us. And tomorrow for counter election streams, I have not wrote one question down yet for the Steve Orlando interview. Like I feel it's gonna be more of a discussion.
100%. I'm excited. I think that Steve probably has some good questions for us.
And also, like, I can't thank him enough for like just responding to my random ass like tweet going, "Hey, like, we have a show. Would you like to come on? Like, we don't have many viewers, but like, be glad to talk to you."
We've got a lot of heart.
Like, I think my shame went away after the whole Rodney Barnes interview.
Yeah.
Like, it got all the fear out of my system. Like, I'm gonna start working on Josh Williamson next.
Yeah, right. Ooh. We're working on Neil Gaiman, man. I'm determined.
I would lose my shit if he was like, you know what? Sure, what the fuck? I'll come on. Just don't bring up Amanda Palmer.
Oh, I would in a heartbeat.
Oh, I'd be like, you know what? Fuck it. Like, I'll only live once. Like, I'm fine with not bringing it up. Just to be like, tell us a story. Can you read the Lovecraft lines like you did in the In Fear of Whatever documentary where he's like reading, and then Guillermo del Toro is like reading lines from the movies too, from the books. I was like, oh, it sounds so cheery when Neil Gaiman reads it. And
yeah, but I think that didn't he kind of renounce some of that?
I mean, he just read stuff in it, but he was also like, he is an insane fucking xenophobe.
Yeah.
During the documentary, like it was a great documentary, and then they had someone like doing like, it sounds like it's playing on a record player, like readings of Lovecraft's work and like interviews. But yeah, Lovecraft is a lunatic.
Yeah.
Well, no, like a mama's boy, like dad, like
yeah.
There's some insane stuff. But if you want something to just wash the xenophobia out of your mouth and blatant racism, watch Lovecraft Country. And then what was that book that Ferengian Vigilante recommended about Lovecraft last week on the stream? But it was about taking back Lovecraft.
I can't recall.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And I should have written down. I was like, nope, I'll remember this. Hit up Ferengian Vigilante on Instagram if you're interested, especially if you want to talk Conan, Lovecraft, or anything else. Check out his and Stay Puft show. Honestly, like every time we talk to Ferengian Vigilante, I learn so much from him.
Oh, yeah.
And he avoided our show last week because he didn't want to hear about the Dune comic because he doesn't get it for a month.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Also, Dune by Boom.
Dune by Boom.
Boom.
Dune
Check
by
it
Boom.
out. There are many covers. Issue 2 has many covers. And sometimes you get a Paul Pope one.
Sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes you get like the die cut one that's basically just like a glory hole cover.
It's 2 different covers, basically.
Yeah.
Because it has the regular cover that has...
And then the little glory hole. Yeah.
When you say glory hole, is it like 1 or 2? Like, you got choices?
No, it just has like the one, like it's an extra flap over it with a hole so you can like put stuff through. So if you have a sandworm you want to put through.
Because, there's different glory holes. There's the one where it's like, multiple choice.
I actually,
Oh, I didn't want to go. So I've done a glory hole before, and it was not multiple choice.
well, no, I actually, so I have an idea. If nothing, I'm an entrepreneur, and what I'd like to do is I do want to make a Christian themed mini golf place and call it Glory Holes.
Against the world, against life. Ooh. Thank you for this recommendation. This actually sounds interesting. Gorvidal just subscribed to us last week. Thank you for that recommendation, and thank you for viewing. Wow. Okay. We talk about Lovecraft way too fucking much on our shows, I noticed.
We do a lot.
Since we started. Maybe it's the whole apocalypse of this past year.
Maybe.
I'm actually making a note of this now.
Write it down really quick before it goes away.
Yes.
So are you going to invest in my idea?
Could you repeat that again?
Yes, it's a Christian themed mini golf place, and I'm going to call it Glory Holes. You can also you can buy my Batman book, Batman Year 18, Barely Legal. You can also buy it at your closest Glory Hole location.
So this is almost as good as Kevin Smith, where he was not happy with the end of Harry Potter, where he thought they should have obliviated the mind of Voldemort and had him working at the Gagging Gargoyle.
Yes.
Where he was just at a glory hole, just nonstop bukkake.
Maybe. Even as bad as Voldemort was, as long as consent is involved.
And then he'll just the Dark Lord. I remember the Dark Lord. Okay, we've hit a hole. So again, thank you everybody for joining us. And tomorrow we are going to be streaming again because that seems to be what we do. Not 4 days. Not 4 days in a row like last week.
This will just be 3. Well, no, this will be 4 for me since I went yesterday.
That's true. Yeah, I just couldn't bring myself to do it, but I did watch it. Okay. I did watch it. And my boss walked over and he goes, "Huh? She does her own shows." And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Huh? I think she'd prepare more." I was like, "That's not what we do."
Yeah, that's not our brand.
He's like, "Do they not say who's the creators are on the back?" I was like, "It's a floppy. It's not a trade. They don't."
Yeah, and sometimes it's just the last.
It's not a movie poster either, where it's from the creator of.
Yeah. Yep. We've got to remember all this stuff.
Holtman's a respected and controversial French novelist, but his Lovecraft book is good. Interesting. Controversial French novelist.
Check that out.
Yeah, definitely my interest is piqued. Thank you for that recommendation, and I am going to get up on that. I'm going to see if I can get it on Kindle or iBooks, because I imagine it's a pain in the ass to fucking buy in physical form.
Probably.
So next week we'll be reading up to book 3,
which is only 2 chapters. I think I just
counted.
Yes,
and hopefully we will have a full crew with us, because I do miss my Sid and Cidnya. They have their own unique takes.
They do.
And I feel like Sid definitely would have had some talk about what they were wearing and how much description they went into.
Yeah.
Our bet on furniture coming up next is still alive. I had
was it tapestries or
I had
rugs?
I had wall coverings.
Wall coverings, okay.
Yes. I believe Sid had accent rugs.
Yeah.
You had something.
Bidets.
Bidets, yes. I feel like the Emperor would have the bidet and it'd be fucking gold and it would be a lion spitting water into his asshole.
And the Baron would 100% have a human bidet. Just someone who just sits there and just. Yep, pretty much.
Oh God! No, the picture just entered my mind. I was like, Nope.
You're welcome.
Nope. Nope. Um, okay, so Lynch's film, there's some good, there's some bad. If you want more accurate, the sci-fi TV movie, it has moments. There's never going to be there's never a perfect version of it, but you'll get the characters' pictures in your head. Yeah. At least it worked for me. Although now I see Gurney Halleck as Patrick Stewart forever and ever.
Forever.
Even though he's supposed to be a lump of a man, like a giant potato. Jodorowsky's Dune. Watch it if you have Amazon Prime Instant. It is on there. If you want to see the madness of a creator who is trying to make a movie that should never have been made either. 14 hours?
14 hours, man.
I want to see it, but I never want to see it. 14 hours. Like, what the fuck is the intermission in that? Like, that's a day. That is it's like, where are you at now? I don't know.
That's like a Lord of the Rings marathon. Like, you have to be committed.
Yes, and again, like, Denis Villeneuve is trying... it seems like he's cribbing from both, plus his own take on it, so there's just going to be references galore.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see a new trailer, but at the same time, we got a year, so I don't really need to, and I feel like we saw enough. You show me that maker, I show you the money.
Yep.
Okay, we're really leaving this time. Take care, everybody. I know I say this constantly, like 3 goodbyes, 4 goodbyes, 5 goodbyes.
Bye, friends.
Bye.